me and my business is easy, right? Me doing things, me creating systems, me creating all the visionary stuff, like all that's easy. Going in, working with a client, I still love it. I still do it. All that's the easy part. The challenge is that other stuff, right? That flip.
Yeah.
And so I'll make a decision. I'm going to really do that. And then I think because it's a new skill, I go, I don't really like that, right? And I don't know that it's conscious, but I think it's subconsciously, I go back to what is easy, good. However, it does impact the growth.
Yes.
Because it's an uncomfortable place to be in, I think, for many of us.
It is. And it is slower, and it does take more time. And it is, in comparison, feels a little boring. You don't get the same dopamine hit that you do from like a big deal or a big movement or a big project closing. It's slower and steadier. And I do think it does require new skill sets. And most of us, by the time we've gotten to that place where we're ready to scale our growth through people, is we've been so used to being successful, we forget what it's like to be a learner. And so we don't cut ourselves enough slack that you're right. It actually is new skill sets. We just are used to walking in and knowing exactly what to do. We probably aren't even thinking about it anymore. It's so intuitive. We've done it so many times, and it's easy to get irritated with the people around us because we're like, don't you get it? Just da da da. Like, it's so obvious. Just make it happen. And we kind of start looking at our team and we're like, they don't get it. They just don't get it. And so that's a sign that you actually have mastered so many skills that it's time to multiply yourself. It's time to develop other people. You got to kind of go back and like remember what it's like to be a learner and stumble and make mistakes and not know what it is and learn from it, and the insecurity that breeds inside. One of the things I've started committing to in the last 10 years of my life and leadership is I'm always in a room or a classroom or a training or some activity where I don't know what's happening and I'm not in charge. So a lot of this for me is like working out. Sometimes I'll rotate how I work out. I'll go to CrossFit, or like right now I'm into jazzercise. Like I'll flip through because there are all these systems and this way of learning where it's so embarrassing to not know what I'm doing. And I don't like that feeling. I like being the expert. I like walking in and being the one who knows the answer. And it's so unnerving to like be at the back of the room or be the one making mistakes or looking stupid. But I found that for me as a person, it's important for me to always be nurturing that learner. Otherwise, it's easy for me to stop learning and stop expanding and stop growing. And I'm sure we all know people, especially in business, who sort of put the blinders on. And in our day and age, I don't feel like we can even do that for a year or two without our entire industry bypassing us. So we have to stay agile. We have to stay up to date. We have to stay open and flexible and learning constantly. Learning organizations is kind of the buzzword in the HR because we have to sort of be doing what we know to do, and at the same time, trying and experimenting and developing new ideas of where things are headed so that we can stay at least on the curve, if not ahead of the curve.
So if somebody finds themselves at that kind of that midpoint and they keep hitting the lid, as you said, great John Maxwell reference, right? How do they overcome that? I mean, yes, they need to learn the skill, but I struggle with learning that skill. Like, where would you take somebody to say, okay, here's what you need to do or focus on to kind of have that breakthrough so that you can take your business from good to great?
Well, I think you hit on at the beginning, which is really, this is all about doing your work through people. Because when you start shifting what's in your head and in your hands and your ability, and you start transferring those skills to other people, then you have the ability to scale. Then you have the ability for work to be happening with you not present. Then you have the ability to actually even multiply that. Now you're hitting 20 things at one time rather than you just hitting one or two things. So that kind of skill set of knowing what it is I should delegate, who I should delegate it to, and how to set that up is really the skill set of multiplication. It's one of the reasons why I wrote the Sticky Leadership book, because I was coaching these leaders and they were like hiring an assistant. So one of the first kind of staff members most people hire is like an admin assistant, because your email's out of control and you can't figure out your calendaring and your visa bill never gets reconciled, and like it's all the boring administrative minutia stuff that happens over and over and over and every day, and it takes you sort of away from what you're biggest performance drivers for your company are. So we hire an admin assistant. So I was coaching these leaders and they were hiring admin assistants, but they were like, getting them coffee, or they felt bad asking them to make copies, or they just, they just weren't sure how to use them. And they were trying so hard to develop them that they were like giving them big projects that they were completely ill-equipped for. And they're still looking at their email every day. And so part of it is we kind of have to just be okay realizing what you hired someone for, having clarity. What is it that I need to stop doing? And I would say, if you think of your job in 0 to 100% of what you cover, the first things you delegate are the bottom 20%. And you're in the bottom 20% if it's something, first of all, that you hate to do or are not good at doing, or it annoys you, or it's so frequent you can't keep up on it. That's like the first set of categories, because if you can get those off your plate, it really focuses your attention to the top 80%. And then the next hire you do is that next 20%. Is that an office manager? Is that a fellow associate? Is that a bookkeeper, accountant? Is that whatever it is in your business that's like the next thing? And I would say from a business owner standpoint, you're in the best position to really customize your delegation around you. So when you move from a one-person staff to, probably up to 8 or 10 people, you're really hiring people to supplement you. It's that bottom 80%, to the point where you're only owning the top 20%. The top 20% are the things that only you can do, and you absolutely love them, and you really are the best at them. Like, even if you like doing it, like I really love making my own travel arrangements, but I'm not necessarily the best or the fastest. But the only thing that I can do is actually work with my clients and deliver their strategic plan. My assistant can't do that. She can do my travel plans. So even if she only does it as like a B+, and I'm an A+ travel person, it's still worth having a B+ Delta reservation because of what I got to do and because I multiplied myself through her. So that's how we kind of think of it. And I would say you start at the bottom and move up. When it comes to actually delegating them, my whole kind of rule of thumb is that you just never have homework when you're delegating. So when you tell someone what you want them to do, I always try to write it down on a piece of paper, because I don't want them to have to come back and ask me questions. I want to give really clear instructions. I want to say what I expect you to do, what I don't want you to do, when it's okay to come for me with questions, and most importantly, when do you come back to me to tell that the job is done? Because we really easily turn into nagging moms and parents and leaders if we're always following up. Did you get this part done? Did you get that part done? Right? So my job is to hand it over in such a way that their next step is their next step. And when the job is done, they bring it back to me for me to inspect. I call that with my 15-year-old son. I'm like, let me know when you're ready for inspection. You're cleaning your room, or you're doing the lawn, or you're doing whatever the project is. I'm like, are you clear? Do you have any questions? Let me know when you're ready for me to inspect it. And then the only thing I'm doing is every hour or so I'm wondering, I can't believe he's not done yet, or shouldn't he be done yet? And I might walk by his room and kind of oversee it. But at the end of the day, whether it takes him 1 hour or 10 hours is really up to him. When he comes back to me, then I can debrief that. And I'm like, how come it took you 10 hours to clean your room? Like, I didn't actually give you a time frame. If I cared, I should have said I want it done in 90 minutes, but I didn't say that. So let's talk about that. He's like, we got sidetracked and da-da-da, and it didn't matter. So we debrief it even with our employees. It's like, this is the project, or this is my email that I want you to check. I want to report back at the end of the day of what's on there, what I need to do, and what you took care of. So whatever it is, the onus goes on them, and they come back to you. Otherwise, we haven't really delegated anything. We've just added to our to-do list.
Yeah, that hits home. That is, it's interesting. I put together this painful process. Probably took me 3 years, and it's a living document. We put together something called a playbook, and it's everything we do and how we do it.
Good.
It is step by step. And for me, I'm just kind of like, well, it's in the playbook, right? And yet I understand that not everyone learns that way, right? And so as a leader, being clear on what I need, what they need, and so that we can get people onboarded quickly, so a little bit of flexibility, because I tend to struggle with that.